0517 local time, North Atlantic, Sea State 2, visibility clear. On the flight deck of a US Navy aircraft carrier, yellow shirts guide an F/A-18 into position with practiced precision. Far below, reactor output remains stable. Radar scopes show nothing unusual. The morning appears calm. Then, sonar breaks the silence. Con, sonar, transient spike, bearing 087, high-speed cavitation. There is no panic in the voice, no hesitation, just information. Inside the Combat Information Center, every head turns toward the acoustic display. The pattern is not biological. It is not surface clutter. It is mechanical, intense, and continuous. Con, sonar, additional transients, multiple, stand by. A pause. Confirm 3 separate screws, fast movers. Another beat. Torpedoes in the water. General quarters sounds at once. Red lights flash through the carrier's passageways. Watertight doors begin sealing in sequence. Sailors move quickly, but with control. No chaos. No shouting. They have trained for this moment again and again. Now, the drill has become real. The tactical action officer steps forward. Range? Estimated 9,000 yards. Speed high. Bearing steady. 3 inbound tracks converging. On the surface, the carrier holds course for 3 more seconds. Just long enough to refine the picture. Then the order comes. Helm, right full rudder, flank speed. A Nimitz-class aircraft carrier displaces more than 100,000 tons. It does not turn like a destroyer. Every movement is a contest between command, steel, water, and momentum. But even a small change in heading can disrupt an incoming torpedo solution. The escorts react first. 2 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers guarding the carrier swing outward, their screws digging into the Atlantic. Behind them, towed sonar arrays stream through the water, searching for confirmation. TAO, confirm classification. Acoustic data races across the screen. The signature is not American, not Allied. Blade rate and acoustic behavior match known Russian torpedo profiles. Wake homing logic is likely active. That means they are not just following sound, they are following the ship. Time to impact? Under 3 minutes. At the carrier's stern, the first layer of underwater defense deploys. AN/SLQ-25 Nixie decoys splash into the sea and stream behind the hull. They create a larger, louder acoustic target, something more tempting than the carrier itself.
The goal is simple. Make the torpedo choose the wrong target.
Beneath the surface, the geometry tightens. Track 1 shifting, possible decoy acquisition. For a fraction of a second, relief flickers through the room. Then it disappears. Track 2 holding center mass. Track 3 still inbound, no deviation. At least one torpedo still has a clear solution. Inside the CAC, the commanding officer does not raise his voice.
Maintain formation integrity. Log everything.
Because this did not come from far outside the screen. It came from inside the defensive ring. Con, sonar, new contact, bearing 091, submerged, depth 150 meters. There it is, a submarine. Close, too close. The nearest destroyer sends active sonar pulses into the water column. The ocean answers with sharp metallic returns. Submarine contact firm, acoustic profile consistent with Russian systems. No one says the obvious out loud. The move was intentional. From the forward escort, vertical launch hatches open. Stand by ASROC. A rocket-assisted torpedo fires upward, arcs across the sky, then drops into the sea near the submarine's last known position. Seconds later, a deep underwater concussion rolls through the North Atlantic like distant thunder. The carrier shudders, not from a direct hit, but from the pressure moving through the water around it.
Torpedo range 6,000 yards. One inbound track veers away. The decoy is walking, the other does not.
4,000. The carrier keeps turning, its massive hull leaning into the weight of its own momentum. Every single degree matters now. On the flight deck, aircraft sits secure to the deck. No one speaks. Above the surface, the North Atlantic still looks almost peaceful. Below it, 3 fast-moving underwater threats are closing on the largest ship in the strike group.
3,000 yards.
The escorts tighten their protective arc. The hostile submarine is trying to slip deeper, but it made its move from inside the screen. That mistake gives it no easy way out. 2,000 yards. The final inbound track stays locked on course, and the margin for survival shrinks to seconds. 0520 local time. The ocean is no longer quiet. Con, sonar, inbound torpedoes now 5,000 yards. 2 holding steady, 1 oscillating. On the bridge, the helm responds immediately. Right full rudder applied, coming to new course. The carrier's bow begins its slow, powerful swing to starboard. At flank speed, a Nimitz-class carrier can push beyond 30 knots, but a ship this size does not leap forward. It builds speed through weight, pressure, and time. Every second is measured against the distance still remaining. Inside the Combat Information Center, the Tactical Action Officer studies the shifting tracks. Recommend evasive pattern Delta. Continue decoy deployment. From the stern, more acoustic countermeasures stream into the Atlantic. The Nixie arrays vibrate behind the ship, sending out controlled sound patterns designed to confuse the torpedo seekers and pull them away from the carrier. Underwater, the first inbound track begins to hesitate. Track 1 deviating, bearing shift 10 degrees. It is taking the bait. Track 2, negative deviation, still center mass. That one is different, more controlled, more persistent. Likely operating in active search mode, not simply following the wake. That means it can lose the target and still find it again. Track 3 lost momentarily. Stand by. Lost does not mean safe. It means unpredictable. The nearest escort, an Arleigh-Burke-class destroyer, turns directly into the threat axis, placing itself between the carrier and the incoming track. It is not a mistake. It is doctrine. The screen exists to protect the carrier, even when the distance collapses. Destroyer 1 is deploying countermeasure rocket. From the destroyer's deck, a compact defensive interceptor launches. It is built for one purpose: to meet the incoming threat underwater before it reaches the carrier's danger zone. In the CIC, the range calls Titan. 3,500 yards. The submarine contact remains active. Sub bearing 091, increasing depth, now 200 meters. The hostile boat is trying to slip beneath the thermal layer, using temperature shifts in the water to blur sonar returns and hide its own acoustic trail. But it acted too close. There is no clean exit path now. Recommend second ASROC. Approved. Another vertical launch hatch opens. A rocket-assisted torpedo rises from the escort, cuts through the morning air, and arcs toward the submarine's last confirmed position. Seconds later, it drops into the sea and begins hunting through the cold water. Below the surface, pressure waves ripple outward. Track 1, decoy contact confirmed. A dull underwater thud rolls across the sonar display. The first inbound torpedo has gone after the false target. The carrier remains untouched. Track 2, now 2,000 yards. This is the dangerous one. On board the carrier, damage control teams are already in position. Breathing gear is ready. Flood control equipment is staged near vulnerable compartments. No one waits to see what happens. Every sailor knows their station. Interceptor away. The escort's anti-torpedo round enters the water at speed. Unlike the inbound torpedo, it is designed for a short, direct intercept. Range 1,500 yards. The carrier continues its turn, screws churning hard, forcing the torpedo to recalculate with every passing second. Track 3 reacquired, bearing shifted, possibly reacquiring main hull. That means 2 threats may still be active. Range 1,000 yards. Inside the CIC, the voices remain steady.
Brace for shock. The interceptor reaches the first. A sharp underwater shock rolls through the sonar picture, flooding the display with static and white noise. Possible intercept on track 2, but the noise field hides the answer. Track 2, stand by. Stand by. The seconds stretch longer than they should. Then the call comes. Track 2 no longer inbound, likely neutralized. A single controlled breath moves through the compartment. Not celebration, not relief. Just one more second survived. Track 3, 800 yards and closing. The final torpedo is now inside the danger envelope. At this distance, even a close pass could threaten the carrier's hull. Steering gear
or propulsion systems. The carrier leans deeper into its turn. Deploy additional countermeasures. Another decoy drops into the Atlantic and begins broadcasting a stronger acoustic signature than the carrier itself. Underwater, the torpedo wavers. Track 3 showing oscillation. It is confused now, pulled between the real target and the false one. 500 yards. The anti-torpedo system aboard the second escort activates. Interceptor 2 away. The second defensive round enters the water and dives fast. 400 yards. Inside the Combat Information Center, the room goes almost silent. Only the range calls remain. 300. Then the ocean erupts beneath the surface. A powerful underwater shock bursts short of the carrier's hull.
The pressure wave strikes like a hammer,
Rattling consoles, shaking deck plates, and sending a deep vibration through the ship. The carrier shudders, then holds. Shock absorbed, no immediate flooding alarms. A moment later, sonar confirms it. Track 3 terminated. 3 torpedoes launched. 3 torpedoes stopped. But the submarine is still there.
Subcontact still active, bearing 088, speed reduced.
The Russian boat attempted to overwhelm the strike group from inside its defensive perimeter. It failed to reach the carrier's hull, but it has not yet been fully dealt with. Now the hunt begins. 0522 local time. The last pressure wave fades through the hull. Consoles stop trembling. Overhead piping settles into a low hum. The carrier steadies. Damage control report. Reports arrive compartment by compartment. No flooding, frame sections 120 through 180. No propulsion casualty. No fire. No structural breach. 3 torpedoes were launched. None reached the hull, but the engagement is not over. Con, sonar, submarine contact still active, bearing 088, speed decreasing, depth 300 meters. The Russian submarine is either damaged or moving with extreme caution. Either way, it remains inside the strike group's defensive envelope.
The commanding officer does not pause. Shift to prosecution.
With one phrase, the mission changes, from surviving the attack to taking control of the battle space. On the flight deck, the first MH-60R Seahawk is already spooling up. Its rotors cut into the Atlantic wind as the crew chief gives the final signal. This is not a routine patrol. This is a hunter launch.
Seahawk 1 airborne.
The helicopter lifts cleanly from the deck and banks toward the destroyer screen.
Beneath its fuselage is everything needed for the underwater search: sonobuoys, sensors, and Mark 54 lightweight torpedoes. Below the surface, the submarine dives deeper. Sub-depth now 350 meters, altering course south. It is trying to use the confusion from shock waves, decoys, and acoustic clutter to break contact. The escorts tighten their geometry. 2 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers form a narrowing arc, their towed sonar arrays stretched wide behind them. Active sonar pulses return, controlled and deliberate, stripping away the submarine's hiding space one layer at a time. Contact regained, bearing steady. The submarine cannot outrun the geometry it created for itself. It fired from inside the carrier screen. Now there is no open water ahead, only overlapping detection zones. Seahawk 1, deploy pattern Alpha. From 200 feet above the Atlantic, sonobuoys drop one after another. Each one hits the surface, activates, and begins sending acoustic data back to the helicopter and the strike group network. Within seconds, an invisible grid forms beneath the sea. Seahawk 1 has contact, submarine confirmed. Depth 380 meters, speed 15 knots. The Russian boat is slowing. That could mean damage or preparation. Recommend weapon release. Approved. The Seahawk banks slightly and releases a Mark 54 torpedo. It enters the Atlantic with a controlled splash and immediately begins its search pattern. Passive first, then active. Inside the carrier CIC, every movement is tracked. Weapon in water. The submarine reacts at once. Sub increasing speed, deploying countermeasures. Below the surface, acoustic decoys begin to bloom. False signatures, bubble clouds, and noise sources spread through the water, all designed to draw the incoming torpedo away from the real hull. Mark 54 adjusting, tracking.
Then the sonar picture flashes with a sudden surge of white noise. An underwater shock rolls across the grid. Possible near-field event, sub-contact unstable. Not a confirmed result, but close. Submarine slowing rapidly, depth fluctuating. The Russian captain is fighting to keep control. Seahawk 2 airborne. A second helicopter rises from the carrier deck, widening the acoustic net. More sonar buoys enter the water. The grid tightens. Sub-contact regained. Bearing 092. Speed 5 knots. 5 knots is not escape speed.
Seahawk 1, second weapon authorized.
Another Mark 54 drops from the helicopter. The torpedo dives, begins searching, and locks onto the moving contact. Sub attempting hard turn. Depth now 400 meters. The Atlantic here offers no endless hiding place. No easy darkness to disappear into. Weapon tracking steady. The second stretch. Then comes a second underwater detonation. Louder, closer. The sonar display fills with sharp, broken returns.
Sonar confirms structural breakup sounds, metallic separation, air release.
The contact begins to fall apart on the screen. Subcontact fragmenting. Debris signatures rise through the water column. A faint oil trace starts to reach the surface. Then silence follows. Con, sonar, no active propulsion, no maneuvering, no coherent contact. The Russian submarine is no longer responding. The carrier holds steady course while helicopters circle overhead, verifying the field below. 3 torpedoes were launched toward a US aircraft carrier. None reached the hull, and the vessel that launched them is now silent beneath the Atlantic. Inside the Combat Information Center, no one celebrates. There is only procedure. Log time of final detonation, preserve sonar record. Because this was more than a defensive success. It was a live encounter between 2 nuclear-armed powers, measured in minutes, decided in seconds, and shaped by training, discipline, and geometry.
Above the surface, the Atlantic looks unchanged. Below it, the engagement is over. 0527 local time, the Atlantic is calm again. But no one in the strike group assumes the danger has passed. Con, sonar, multiple debris returns, oil trace confirmed, no propulsion noise. The first Russian submarine is likely out of the fight. Likely is not enough. Expand search pattern. Assume secondary contact until proven otherwise. Carrier strike group doctrine does not celebrate. It verifies. 2 Arleigh-Burke-class destroyers widen their arc, their screws cutting controlled lines through the water. Behind them, towed sonar arrays stretch farther aft, sweeping for any acoustic signature that does not belong. Because a single submarine does not always operate alone. Inside the Combat Information Center, analysts replay the launch geometry. Initial torpedo bearings confirm firing solution from inside the perimeter. That means the Russian boat either slipped through the outer screen undetected or used environmental conditions to mask its approach. Review thermal layer data. Reconstruct approach vector. The hunt is no longer only about one submarine. It is about how it got there. Overhead, the first MH-60R Seahawk remains on station, orbiting low above the water. Its crew deploys additional sonar buoys in a wider lattice, expanding the acoustic net beyond the debris field. Seahawk 1 reports negative secondary contact.
The second helicopter shifts north and lowers its dipping sonar into the Atlantic. The transducer slips beneath the surface. A pulse goes out. Controlled, powerful, deliberate. The ocean answers. Nothing. Negative contact, north quadrant. The carrier maintains steady speed. Flight operations remain paused, but ready. Deep inside engineering spaces, damage control teams continue inspections, checking for hidden stress from the pressure waves that moved through the hull.
Reactor compartments report nominal. Shaft alignment within tolerance.
The carrier is intact. But the strike group commander does not lower the posture. Maintain condition 1, ASW until cleared. Anti-submarine readiness remains at maximum. Every sensor live, every helicopter fueled, every escort ready. At 0534 local time, a faint acoustic anomaly appears. Con, sonar, Transient northeast quadrant, bearing 035. The CIC tightens again. Classify. Seconds pass. Biologic, likely marine life. The tension does not disappear. It simply changes shape. Because the Russian submarine that launched 3 torpedoes was not acting randomly. It was carrying out a calculated strike from inside a defensive formation. That means preparation. That means surveillance. Request P-8 support. Far beyond the visible horizon, a Boeing P-8 Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft is redirected toward the strike group's position.
High above the Atlantic, its radar sweeps wide arcs across the ocean, while its onboard systems process acoustic data from the buoy fields below. This is no longer a single-ship encounter. It is a networked search. By 0542 local time, the oil trace has widened. The debris pattern is consistent with a major hull failure. Small fragments begin reaching the surface. Composite shards, insulation, and pieces of metallic plating. Photograph and mark coordinates. Every fragment is evidence. Every bearing matters. The P-8 reports clear surface lanes within 20 nautical miles. No additional submarine contacts detected. The Seahawk crews begin systematic confirmation passes, lowering sonar at wider and wider distances from the original contact area. Nothing. Slowly, the strike group shifts from direct pursuit to controlled overwatch. ASROC tubes are made safe. Helicopters refuel and rearm. But readiness does not fall. Because the most dangerous moment in naval warfare can be the moment right after everyone thinks the danger has passed. At 0555 local time, final acoustic sweeps confirm silence. Con, sonar, no propulsion signatures, no cavitation, area clear. The commander gives the order. Resume primary mission profile. Maintain enhanced ASW posture. Flight deck crews begin moving again. Aircraft are repositioned. Catapult crews prepare to relaunch combat air patrol. The carrier never stopped moving. It never stopped projecting presence. 3 torpedoes were launched at the center of a US carrier strike group. None reached the hull. 1 submarine failed to escape. And the hunt did not end in confusion or chaos. It ended with methodical confirmation. Above the Atlantic, the sky brightens with early sunlight. Below it, the water holds what remains of a mission that miscalculated American response time by seconds. On the carrier's bridge, there is no celebration. Only logged timestamps, only reconstructed vectors, only one quiet conclusion. Inside the US carrier strike group, there is no such thing as a single shot. There is only layered response, and the search continues until nothing answers back. 0605 local time. The Atlantic looks unchanged. Low swells, a clean horizon, no smoke, no visible damage. But inside the strike group, everything has shifted. Secure from general quarters, maintain modified ASW posture. The announcement moves through the carrier's passageways. Watertight doors reopen in sequence. Red lighting fades back to normal illumination. Sailors return to their stations, but slower now, more deliberate. 3 torpedoes were launched at a United States aircraft carrier. None reached it. That fact will be entered into the logs. It will not be broadcast. Inside the Combat Information Center, sonar recordings are already being archived. Preserve full acoustic record from 0515 through 0535. Every transient, every cavitation spike, every underwater echo. Those files will move through classified channels and be studied frame by frame. Blade rates will be analyzed. Propulsion noise will be examined. Guidance behavior will be reconstructed. Because survival is only half the mission. Understanding is the other half. On the flight deck, operations resume in controlled phases. An F/A-18 taxis forward. Catapult steam drifts into the cool Atlantic air. Within minutes, combat air patrol is airborne again. Not because the sky is under threat, because posture matters. A carrier strike group never pauses for long. Below deck, engineering teams complete structural surveys. Hull stress within acceptable tolerance. No microfractures detected in primary bulkheads. Shaft bearings nominal.
The pressure waves from the two underwater blasts were powerful, but the carrier was built for this environment. Layered steel, compartmentalized spaces, redundant systems. Damage control teams did not have to fight flooding today, but they were ready. At 0618 local time, a Boeing P-8 Poseidon completes its final surveillance sweep over the debris field. Coordinates are confirmed, no secondary contacts detected. The escorts return to standard screen formation around the carrier. Arleigh-Burke-class destroyers cutting disciplined lanes through the Atlantic. Their sonar remains active, but measured now, watchful, because the ocean remembers. On the carrier's bridge, the commanding officer reviews the timeline. 517, torpedo detection. 518,
Evasive maneuver initiated. 519, interceptors deployed. 520, final underwater event. 521, prosecution authorized. 522, submarine neutralized. Minutes, not hours. That is the margin modern naval operations live inside. There were no warning shots, no speeches, no public display. A submarine moved inside a carrier screen and launched 3 weapons. The response was geometry, speed, and discipline. In the ready rooms below, helicopter crews debrief quietly. Sensor operators review thermal layers and buoy patterns. Pilots go back over release parameters for the Mark 54 drops. No raised voices, no drama, just procedure. First weapon, near field. Second weapon, confirmed structural breakup. Professional, clinical, complete. On deck, a junior sailor pauses for a moment at the rail, looking out across the Atlantic. There is no visible sign that anything happened here. The horizon is clean, the water is calm. The ship looks exactly as it did before. But somewhere beneath the surface, twisted steel rests in cold water. And above it, the same carrier sails on, unchanged in course. At 0645 local time, the strike group resumes full mission profile. Aircraft cycle, escorts rotate watch teams, communications remain encrypted and minimal. There will be no victory declaration, because this was not about spectacle, it was about defense. And the lesson is simple. Inside a US carrier strike group, there is no single point of failure. There is sonar layered over sonar, decoys layered over maneuver, Interceptors layered over steel. Air assets layered over surface combatants. 1 torpedo can test a hull, 3 torpedoes test a system. Today, the system held. As the morning sun climbs higher, calm light spreads across grey decks and silent radar arrays. The carrier continues forward at steady speed. No deviation, no announcement, just presence. And somewhere far from this ocean, in a secure operations room, analysts will study the acoustic record of those 3 launches.
They will measure the seconds. They will measure the response. They will reconstruct every decision from first contact to final silence. And they will understand what the Russian submarine learned too late. Inside the screen, nothing moves without being hunted. Inside the screen, nothing launches without consequence. And when danger comes fast beneath the surface, the answer comes just as fast.